This is the story of the Victorian forests. How the roads are built, the timber harvested, the new growth tended, and the forests protected from fire. In the forestry of today still lives the spirit of those men of vision who, in the frenzied rush of early settlement, saved our forests from wanton destruction. When early pioneers came to our southern state, some were content to squat in the blazing sun, panning out color. In 1851, the famous Welcome Nugget was discovered, and gold fever was raging throughout the state. Those were the stirring days of the gold tax and the miners' historic revolt at the Eureka Stockade. Many of our forefathers came out from the old country in a spirit of sheer adventure. Others had been born and bred in a farmhouse. These pioneer families settled in the mountain ranges fringing the seaboard and sought their familiar livelihood from the soil. Many failed to recognize the green gold of the virgin forest. With envious eyes, they saw only the soil, rich with decayed leaves, that gave the forest life. Blue gum, blackwood, and myrtle beech, worth a king's ransom, came crashing down to be ruthlessly burned as the forests were ravaged with fire and axe. At last, the day of reckoning. Nature demanded payment for the damage. Erosion was gnawing into the coveted soil. Then, on the 18th of August, 1907,
Order! Order! The Honourable the Minister is introducing the bill, and these interruptions must cease.
And I repeat, Mr. Speaker, this unequal battle between man and nature cannot go on. Indeed, it was folly to ever begin. The soil is bereft of the forest's natural protection and her binding, life-giving roots. Yeah. We find in the form of bracken nature's remedy for the damage man has wrought. Nature's remedy, I would suggest, Mr. Speaker, it is nature's retribution. Yeah. And what is left? The rotting timbers, the decaying orchard, blighted and neglected, then the pitiful desolation of the abandoned selection. And it is, Mr. Speaker, with a deep sense of civic responsibility that I introduce this Forests Reservation Bill and leave the issue to the sound judgment of honourable members in this House.
Yeah. So the bill became law. As a result, vast expanses of valuable forest were permanently reserved. Specialized forest management was now essential, and the School of Forestry was established to meet this new demand. So, for the first time, forest management was planned on a scientific foundation with properly trained men to take charge. And it's here at Creswick that the young student of today still learns the profession he has chosen as his life's work. This afternoon, it's elementary surveying, and the lads are shown how to set up a level and take a reading. From field to lab, high-power microscopy reveals variations in wood structure of some hundreds of species of our Australian eucalypt or gum tree. These are conveniently classified into 5 or 6 main groups, and in Victoria form our most widely spread forest type. Along the flats beside the River Murray flourish the picturesque river red gum, noted for its durability. Bordering on the Mallee wheat belt and extending to the foothills are park-like forests of ironbark and box. In open woodlands, drooping branches of the spreading gums provide shelter for livestock. Along the foothills and lower ranges grow mixed forests of messmate, peppermint, and stringy bark. Clothing the rugged mountain slopes to the snowline stretch vast forests of giant mountain ash. And in the ash belt of the coastal ranges, blue gum with blackwood and myrtle beech. So we have the forest family. The river red gum, messmate, peppermint, and stringy bark. Open woodlands, ironbark and box. blue gum, blackwood, and myrtle beech. And here they are, the famous mountain ash. Over 300 feet of strength and grace, the tallest hardwood in the world. In water catchment areas, we find a law of nature that claims the young forester's early study because it forms the basis of practical forestry. Forests, soil, and water. One cannot exist without the other. Destroy the forests and the water destroys the soil. Remove the water supply, forests and soil perish. Take away the soil and water alone cannot sustain the forest. Together they must ever stand, an inseparable trinity. Together they give us green pasture for cattle, a bounteous harvest, life-giving water for irrigation and agriculture, hydroelectric power for the wheels of industry, timber for milling into supplies for a multitude of needs, shelter and food for our native forest dwellers, an abundance of crystal clear water to towns and cities. Fire is and always will be the forest's bitterest enemy because it's one way that nature's trinity may be upset. Fire protection, then, forms the most important part of the school curriculum. In the days to come, these lads may be called on to defend the forests in their charge and face the ordeal of trial by fire. They must learn to think and act quickly, but today it's only enthusiastic practice. Studies and practical work continue for 3 years, and the Creswick days are over. At the end of that time, the lads pass out as assistant foresters. Then follows a further period of specialized work, after which they are posted to districts throughout Victoria. Only trees allocated by the forest staff may be felled for milling. The heavy, durable timber of the Australian eucalypt is greatly prized. In this age of steel and concrete, these forest monarchs still provide the very foundation of the permanent way.
Come here, Bluey. Come here, Smoky. Get off.
transport provided by these lumbering beasts was slow and tedious, in spite of the bullock driver's amazing torrent of encouragement. So the evolution of transport began. Wooden or metal tram lines were laid in the forest, and horse-drawn timber trucks replaced the bullock teams. With the cry for bigger loads and faster haulage, other forms of transport were adapted to local conditions. Along specially constructed timber extraction roads, transport of today brings logs out of the forest in an endless stream from dawn to sunset.
Gotcha, Tiger! Louis, monkey! Get off, Louis, get out!
Undisturbed by the progress of passing years, the bullocks plod slowly on. A picturesque reminder of those days now gone forever, when time was no object and tomorrow was another day. They are just calculating the direction of fall, so that other trees will not be damaged as she comes down. The bark is stripped off to prevent the saw binding, and with the axe as a guide, away she goes. And the tree is sawn into measured sections. There are various ways of loading logs, and the method used, like transport, is determined by local conditions. The boom loader, though popular in overseas softwood forests, is not widely used here. It's capable of lifting heavy loads and is constructed from spars and other timber cut right on the job. To ensure that supplies of millable timber shall be continuous, special timber extraction roads are being progressively constructed. Forest areas previously inaccessible are so opened up. Under the shaggy brow of Mount Buller, hard by the Delatite River, is the sawmill settlement of Marimba. Here we find yet another of these roads under construction. The project is well underway. Here's someone in a hurry. That looks like the forester's utility. Yes, it is. He is principally concerned in the progress from the timber extraction viewpoint and has come up to see the work's engineer. I've been told that this is a pretty decent example of a timber road, so we'll go up onto the job with them. At this curve near Currajong Creek, a big bend was cut out of the mountainside to keep an even grade. It's a long way down. Further up the road we find, hello, what's this? Trucks coming out already? If those 4 sticks are a sample, some nice timber country is being opened up. 2 huge pipe culverts have been put in under that bend to provide ample getaway for the Currajong Creek when swollen by snow melting on the pinnacle. Rounding a spur from the pinnacle and into the valley of Falls Creek, they blasted out a granite boulder this morning, and a dozer has been pushing out the rubble. And here we are at the foreman's hut, high on the steep bank of Falls Creek. In addition to timber extraction roads, others are constructed primarily for fire protection. A fire dugout is being made on one of these roads at Nuji. These commission-built roads form a small part of a vast network of thousands of miles of road, varying in type, width, and design. They are planned and constructed to meet the various needs of log haulage, timber utilization, and forest management. During the fire season, these roads provide the vital access necessary for the rapid transport of men and firefighting gear to isolate and suppress outbreaks. And that's that.
Where the road line passes through valuable timber, trees are felled and cut into lengths for later haulage to the mill. Stumps and valueless trees are...
Back at the Delatite, the road is pushing ahead and is now approaching the Razorback Saddle.
pleasant days of late spring mean relaxation, sport, and enjoyment as we forget our daily cares. For the forester, it means anxiety and added responsibility as his thoughts turn to the coming summer. The traditional enemy may attack without warning, reducing homes and townships to heaps of charred ruin and rubble, destroying thousands of acres of valuable forest, and perhaps claiming a tragic sacrifice of human lives. 95% of forest fires are lit by the hand of man, the distorted mind of the firebug who deliberately fires the forest with motives of self-satisfaction or revenge. The hand of the careless holidaymaker who throws a lighted cigarette or burning match by the roadside or in the bush. These are only some who won't realize that in the forest matches are a menace. At forestry depots conveniently situated throughout the state, modern firefighting equipment has been stored throughout the winter months. Late spring finds this equipment undergoing thorough tests. These are trained men. They have just returned from a refresher course at the Commission's annual fire school. With an intimate knowledge of the bush country, a highly trained firefighting organization will stand at the alert. But the forester is the backbone of this vast fire protection system. On his judgment and split-second decisions may rest the safety of his men, or perhaps the population of sawmills and townships. Fire protection warnings are prominently displayed in danger areas. Portable radios are checked and tested in the field. This vital communication must not fail. Fire protection reservoirs are built round natural springs. Dams are kept filled by runoff from the forest floor. Tangel Bren, Mount MacDonald, Stringer's Knob, Mount Beenack, Crossover, Lake Mountain, Gentle Annie, Sulky Hill, and Mount Tanglefoot. Fire towers are manned all over the state. It's summer.
I'm Tanglefoot, look out.
Doug here, Bob.
Yes, Doug.
I've just got tomorrow's weather report from 3AA, Bob. Rising temperatures and north wind. Fire risk is acute.
The sunset's as red as fire. She'll be a stinker, all right.
Well, tomorrow's a standby day. I've got all the fire gear out on the road, and I want reports from you every 30 minutes tomorrow, Bob.
Right, Doug. Good night.
Good night, Bob.
Hello?
Fire at Hardy's Creek on bearing 160 degrees. Distance 3 miles. He's just getting going.
Right.
VL3CE Talangi, calling VL3AA. VL3CE, calling VL3AA. VL3CE, calling VL3AA. Over.
VL3AA to VL3CE. Go ahead. Over.
VL3CE, calling VL3AA. Tower reports fire at Hardy's Creek on bearing 160 degrees. Distance 3 miles. In view of bad weather report last night, all field staff are turning out with full equipment, including 3 Coventry and 2 Pacific Marine pumps. All possible precautions are being taken to prevent large-scale outbreak if wind should rise. We will be in constant communication with seat of fire by portable radio and will report when necessary. Will you please ask patrol plane to check size of outbreak? Over.
VL3AA to VL3CE. Your message received and understood. Listening out.
Here is the late news flash from the ABC, read by Lewis Myers. The forest fire that has been raging at Hardy's Creek near Tolangi since early this morning is now threatening lives and property. An official of the Forest Commission stated a few moments ago that all residents had been brought out of the danger area except 2 families living at a sawmill. Fears are held for their safety. A fire dugout is in the vicinity, but their fate is unknown. Further reports will be broadcast as they come to hand. And now...
VL3AA to VL3CE. Come in, please.
VL3CE, calling VL3AA. Fire is now under control. Fire now under control. 1 member of forest staff seriously burned, another injured. Both taken to Healesville Bush Nursing Hospital. No other casualties in fire area. Over.
Except for smouldering logs, the fire was out by the following Monday. As the water from the pumps hissed on the red ashes, the boys looked round at the fire-blackened trees, and no one spoke. So the tense days of summer draw slowly to a close. With the first rains of autumn, Old Mother Nature clothes her forests in a blue mist of safety. On the tops of the hills, on the turreted cones, chief temples of thunder,
The gale like a ghost in the middle watch moans, gliding over and under.
Deep in the forest, the lyrebird lays her solitary egg. Her mate scratches for grubs and worms. A cold winter sun filters into the wet forest. New growth is at its lowest ebb.
Grey winter hath gone like a wearisome guest, and behold, for repayment, September comes in with the wind from the west and the spring in her raiment.
These gaunt spectres, legacy of some past forest fire, rear their ugly heads to the blue skies of another spring. In their shadows, sturdy young mountain ash thrive in the moist earth. So nature provides her own replacement. Where the slow chemistry of nature is unable to reclothe the damaged earth, the risk of soil erosion, especially in catchment areas, is countered by hand-planted trees. The shattered trinity is restored, the rain cycle is renewed, and a young forest of great future potential is established. So nature's task is eased. In other areas, tiny eucalypts are sent out in metal cylinders for hand planting. Orderly rows of trees are typical of a man-made forest.
O season of changes, of shadow and shine, September the splendid. My song hath no music to mingle with thine, and its burden is ended. But thou, being born of the winds and the sun, by mountain, by river, mayst lighten and listen and loiter and run with thy voices forever. September, October, November. Spring has run her brief span into summer.
Put it out.
And so we leave the forests with you.